Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Trash Free Texas webinar, Empower Your Volunteers and Reach New Audiences. And before we dive in any further, I just want to go through a few housekeeping items. Please keep your microphone on mute when you're not speaking, and the presentation slides from the webinar and the recording will be posted at the website on your screen under the green banner past events. And you should be able to go ahead and just click on that link and all the links in the webinar today. And I encourage you to do so and look around at the resources we're talking about. And if you have any questions, we will definitely have time for them at the end of the webinar. We hope to get to them all. And when we take questions, you can either raise your hand and I will call on you and you can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type your question in the chat. And I will try to remember to ask you to state your name and entity when you're asking a question, but hopefully you will remember also. And between the two of us, we will make sure that we know who you are when you're asking a question. So to get started today, I'd like to start with a poll. Oops, I went too far. What type of organization you are representing today, and you should be able to click on the link in the top of the slide and go and answer the question and let us know who you are with, who you're representing at this meeting. That would be very helpful. Oops. I wonder. You know what? I can't. Sorry, I'm having some. Oh, should I unmute? Thank you. Are you able to get to the poll?
Hey, Elena, it's Cassidy. I clicked on the poll, and then when I clicked through, it told me that it was full, that no more responses could be collected, but that might have just been me. But I was able to get to the link and fill out the first few parts when I tried to submit my who I represent, that it told me the poll was full.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that, everyone. That is not supposed to be the case. So I will work on that. And so I assume that this next question will not work either. There are just two questions in the poll today. And I wonder if I can. Well, we will skip the polls for now. Maybe I'll get them later. I'm sorry for that. Okay, but moving on into the webinar, I'd like to introduce the project team today. My name is Elena Berg. As I stated, I'm with the North Central Texas Council of Governments in the Environment and Development Department, and I am one of many who work on this Trash Free Waters project, which is a grant project funded by the Environmental Protection Agency. It is a 3-year project that we started in mid-2020, so we are in our final year and we will be finishing in the fall of 2023. Besides NCTCOG, we have 2 other agencies who are working on the project with us. We have our regional planning counterpart in the Houston region, and that is the Houston-Galveston Area Council, or HGAC. And we also have the Meadows Center for Water and the Environment at Texas State University, because they are the administrators of the Trash Free Texas website, which is a main component of our project. Internally at NCTCOG, we have 4 others working on the project with me. They are Krista Guzman, Environment Development Planner, Brianne Johnson, an Environment Development Planner, Alyssa Knox, the intern at our department, and Cassidy Campbell, who is our project manager. And I see that we have some of our HTAC counterparts online with Wendy Elmanzon and Andrea Tantillo. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you. So the goal of this project that I'm going to be talking to you about today can pretty much be stated in one sentence as I was thinking about it. And can everyone just make sure that you're on mute so we don't have any interference? Thank you. And that is to engage communities and businesses in efforts that facilitate both the removal and reduction of trash that eventually ends up in our waterways and then in Texas to the Gulf of Mexico. Here is an unfortunate picture of the Trinity River in Dallas, Texas. And you can see all the trash that has flowed into the river there. And of course, it harms recreational activity, the habitat health, and the economic value. And of course, then the plastics break down as they move through the water and we have microplastics issues. So litter, of course, is not good. And you all know that. And it's a problem in Dallas and it's a problem throughout the state. So what actions are we taking in this project to meet this goal? Basically, two main actions. We're going to augment and edify and enhance the Trash Free Texas website, which can be found at trashfreetexas.org. And we're going to work to facilitate partnerships between communities and restaurants on initial first step strategies that both reduce the use of plastics, single-use plastics, and reduce costs. And those single-use plastics I'm talking about are plastic straws and plastic utensils. And can we pause just one more time to make sure everybody's on mute? Please make sure that you are muted. Thank you. Okay, so the first way we're trying to meet our goal is to augment the Trash Free Texas website. The goal is to make the Trash Free Texas website a one-stop shop for volunteers looking for cleanup opportunities in their area and as well as resources, but it also includes resources for communities as well. And you can see right when you go to trashfreetexas.org, right at the top, there's the main pieces that are important to the whole website, the Adopt a Spot program, and you can click on that and get more information about how to be a coordinator. And then there's the Adopt a Spot map in the center and the Texas Litter Database, which is available to all free of charge to input data and view data in Texas. And this is part of an effort that we are proud to have partnered on with Keep Texas Beautiful to de-silo, decompartmentalize, if you will, the litter data in Texas. So it's not just housed in each affiliate or each community, but everyone can view it. And that is linked on the Trash Free Texas website. I'm not going to be spending a lot of time talking about the Texas Litter Database today because we've talked about that in previous webinars and we have information about how to use it readily available, but we're happy to take questions on it outside of the webinar if you ever want to contact any member of the team. But I will be talking about the Trash Free Texas map and the Adopt a Spot program that the map facilitates. The Trash Free Texas Adopt a Spot map, which is linked on the slide, is a map that's an interactive map and it displays litter cleanup locations and general information about those locations in Texas. And each location is entered by a site coordinator who is typically someone who works at a community, but it could be a Keep Texas Beautiful affiliate or a nonprofit group, someone who is able to get access to the site safely. And they are categorized into 3 groups: adopted, available, and contact for status. And when you click on one of the sites, a pop-up window appears with the contact information about the site and more information about the site and where it's located and who it's affiliated with. And so far, since the project has initiated, we're a little over 30 entities who have added over 1,000 litter cleanup sites to the map. And we're hoping to get to 50 by the end of the project. 50 entities who have added sites, that is. So what does the Trash Free Texas website do? It maintains this Adopt a Spot map. And using that map, it connects volunteers to litter cleanup opportunities and provides resources to promote the website. One of those resources is shown on your screen, Adopt Our Spots, and you can use that on a newsletter or a website or social media. It was created by our partners at HGAC, so thank you for that. And all we ask is when you share the resources that you become a Trash Free Texas partner. And you can do that by clicking on the link, and you just fill out a short Google form, and you have the option to leave your entity's logo. And if you do choose to leave your logo, then it will be one of the logos scrolling at the bottom of the web page that is linked on the page, the partner web page. And there's a little over 30 entities who have chosen to do that. And we just want to keep track of who our partners are so we can reach out to them if needed. So all you have to do to be a Trash Free Texas partner is be willing to promote the website and the program and be an entity that supports removing litter. Here's an example of more resources that are available for promotion, and these are all available on the Trash Free Texas partner page. Just an example of a few of the items that are available. There are also a video and a brochure and other items, but here's some more items you could use in social media or on a newsletter, as I mentioned. But what the Trash Free Texas website does not do, it does not get involved in any way in the design or implementation of your litter program. It does not coordinate with your volunteers. We are just providing a site that facilitates the connection between volunteer and entity or community, and that's it. We have no requirements for the frequency of the cleanups. Nothing is drafted. I don't even know where it would exist. We are just helping provide that connection. The whole program is run by you. The Trash Free Texas website provides another avenue to display your program and your sites. And it can be used by large communities and small communities. The city of Fort Worth is a great partner of the Trash Free Texas website. They use the map a lot to communicate with volunteers about where they would like to do their cleanups. And small communities obviously would find it beneficial. They can't maintain a map or such technology. So it's beneficial to all groups.
Damn, bro.
But some entities have told us they can't add their sites to the map because, and I'd like to go over some of those reasons with you right now. I've never identified cleanup sites in my community before. Well, that might require some internal conversations about trouble spots, talk with your parks and recreation folks, your stormwater folks. Are you aware of any places where stormwater is collecting? Because it's likely that trash is collecting there as well. But I can't add my sites because my entity already has an Adopt a Spot website, which is great. Good for you. We encourage that, and that's a wonderful thing. And we don't want to work against you. We just want to provide another place where you can advertise your program. So some entities have just added one spot to the map, which just has a link to their website. So someone who's looking for a site in Flower Mound, say, they can just find the one site in Flower Mound and, oh, I can go to their Adopt a Spot map through this link and find out everything I need through there. Some people have said, well, I can't add my sites to the map because the map only takes singular sites, and my sites are segments like a waterway path or a roadway, so I just can't do it. And while the Trash Free Texas map does not have that capability to map out segments, you can still get around that by adding your sites as a single spot and then including information for the pop-up window about how this is not just one site, it is a segment of roadway or waterway. And also you can make that clarification when the volunteer reaches out to you, because your contact information would be on the pop-up window. And you can make sure the volunteer understands that at that time when you make the connection, because the point is to make the connection. As a side note, the Trash Free Texas administrators are looking at ways to add segments to the map, but right now we don't have that capability. And another very valid reason is I don't want to manage cleanup site adoptions because I host mainly events that happen a couple times a year. Or I don't want to update the status of my sites all the time. I'm just going to do one-time cleanups. I'm not going to do adoptions, so why bother? Well, here's a great example in both of those cases why the contact for status label would be a great option for you to choose when adding your sites. And you can discuss the sites that are available when the volunteer reaches out to you at that time. So how we are augmenting the Trash Free Texas website is that we have developed 4 toolkits. 3 are already posted to the Trash Free Texas website. If you go to the top of the Trash Free Texas website, there is the word resources. You click on resources, and then there's this bag here shown on your screen for Adopt a Spot resources, and that's where the 3 toolkits are. The first one I'll discuss is the Cleanup Challenge Toolkit, which has resources and templates for a competition style cleanup event. And NCTCOG, as many of you may know, and I will discuss later in this presentation, we host and coordinate through my wonderful colleague, Krista Guzman, the North Central Texas Community Cleanup Challenge, which is a large scale cleanup challenge that information from that was put into this toolkit. So this toolkit has flyers, waivers, a score sheet for keeping track of who the eventual winner will be, and folks who could use this toolkit, another regional planning agency could use it, or city versus city could use it to challenge each other, or say a Girl Scout troop against another Girl Scout troop, can be used on any scale. And the second toolkit that's posted already is the Local Governments Toolkit, and this is a toolkit loaded with great information about what other litter cleanup tools are already available, programs, campaigns, funding. It's all in the Local Governments Toolkit. And then there's the Recreational Litter Cleanup Toolkit, which provides a way for communities to connect with recreational groups, such as walking, jogging groups, paddling groups, groups that are already outdoors and enjoying their time outdoors and may already have an interest in some kind of litter cleanup and connecting with these groups. Communities might want to connect with a paddling group because they can't safely reach a lot of litter that may be in the water with a group that's working on land, obviously. So it can work to benefit both groups to create this partnership. So this toolkit has flyers in it to advertise the program, and then a QR code that goes to the Trash Free Texas website, and the QR code is on the flyer that explains this partnership and these goofy terms that have come up with this toolkit, such as plogging, which is picking up litter while jogging, and pladdling, picking up litter while paddling. So that is a great resource to make those connections with those groups that are already outside. And the fourth toolkit, there's actually 2 of them. They are through the Trash Free Texas Restaurant Program. There's one toolkit for communities and one toolkit for restaurants. And both of these will be posted soon. And this gets into our effort to reduce plastic straws and plasticware at restaurants through a partnership with communities and restaurants. And I will explain that as we move on. So this whole webinar is how to empower your volunteers and reach new audiences. So how can the Trash Free Texas resources I just mentioned do that? Well, volunteers can see the cleanup opportunities and organizations they want to connect with all in one place. They don't have to go through multiple websites and do searches. They can see where they are in one place through the Adopt a Spot map. Volunteers have the framework, ideas, visions, inspiration, templates already created in these toolkits to do their own cleanup events. And volunteers have access to the Texas Litter Database, which it is hoped becomes a common way to enter litter cleanup data in Texas, because that would benefit us all to have it so we can see what's being collected, the volume. It might help with research, legislation, and as I said, help decompartmentalize how it's stored right now. So how can communities reach new audiences with these resources? Well, through the local government toolkit, they can find out what others are doing, what's already happening, and they can be inspired to do something in their community. They can find sources of funding. And communities have a framework and tools to reach out to recreational groups that they may have never thought to do before. And I threw one last one on here, so I didn't forget to mention, and that is reaching restaurant patrons through the Trash Free Texas restaurant program, which I will get into later in the webinar. People who might not be your typical volunteer demographic, but they are going to restaurants and they're seeing the messaging of Trash Free Texas and what is trying to be accomplished. So going back one bullet on the reach new audiences is the recreational group toolkit. And we have with us today, we are very lucky to have someone who already tried to do a plogging event in the city of Mansfield. We have Rebecca Sales, public education specialist, here to share how it went and what she experienced it and challenges or any successes. And so welcome, Rebecca. I leave the platform to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Elena. I'm Becca Sales with the city of Mansfield. We've been looking for opportunities to try plogging because I've been involved with COG as they've developed this particular toolkit. And so I reached out to Parks Department. We've been partnering with Parks many times here in the city over the course of several years with different events. And they were running a new program in the month of January with a new challenge each week, trying to encourage families to continue to go to the parks, even though the weather is kind of awful outside and you might not typically want to go to the park in the middle of the winter. And so the plogging contest was actually the final week's competition. And we felt like it was really a fairly successful event. Along the way, all through the month of January, families could participate in an organized event that the park set up each week. They logged in their information, collected data, and then winning families were going to get a prize at the end of the month. And so what we did, I worked with Parks. We picked one of the parks that was a little bit larger, that had pretty good foot traffic. The Parks Department did set up a registration so that people could register ahead of time if they wanted to, but we also wanted to capitalize on people that just happened to be at the park that morning, walking their dog or doing their morning run. We did have some people register ahead of time, and then we ended up that particular Saturday morning with just really awful winter weather. It was raining outside. It was really, really cold. And we only had one family out of the whole group that registered ahead of time show up. But because we set up on site with a registration table and signage, and I had an education van and a film going, we attracted attention of the people that were going to the park just for their normal dog walk or whatever that particular morning. And so having set up our equipment and our tables and all that kind of stuff at the entrance to that park, I think was a good move, because we attracted 17 different groups of people that were willing to try out plogging. First, they were just curious. They didn't know the term. They didn't really understand what that meant. But when they found out, oh, I can get a free grabber and some trash bags and gloves and head out to pick up trash while I'm walking the dog or just doing my morning walk, yeah, sure, I'm willing to do that. And so my suggestions are to be really fluid in your approach. You know, registration was great, but then we just picked up on the spot people, and that really ended up being a bigger success that way. I also used much smaller bags than I typically do for a litter pickup. I used 8-gallon bags, thinking about the fact that someone is probably also going to be wrestling a dog leash, or they're just trying to get a jog in too. Some people opted to take grabbers, and I provided inexpensive free grabbers that they could either elect to bring back, and a few people did. You can see some of the buckets that were brought back, but many people said that they wanted to keep them and continue this. And so another suggestion is having inexpensive tools that possibly people could continue to use rather than your higher dollar, like the Adopt a Street grabbers that I typically have for our adopted partners. Those are a little bit more expensive, and I don't want those to walk away. So those are just some insights. We were happy with the contest, and the people that participated were really intrigued with the idea, and they were appreciative of us being there on a cold, rainy morning because they felt like it was helping to keep the park that they love so much, help to keep it clean. So those are my insights from our experience. Anybody with questions?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Becca. That was great information and good tips. Does anybody have any questions for Becca?
Becca, did you have people actually use the Texas litter database to report, or did they report back at your sign-in location?
I did not have them report to the database. I was hoping they would bring the bags back to me so I could kind of keep up with count. Some people deposited the bags in trash receptacles along the trails, and so we didn't get them all back. But I was just kind of curious to have kind of a one-on-one conversation when they finished, if we could. And so that was the reason I decided not to have them enter the database. Plus, it was also more impromptu because, like I said, all but one family had not registered ahead of time, and it was just kind of a spur of the moment decision. And so taking that extra time from them having to wrestle their dogs to be quiet for a minute while they were talking to me or slowing down their walk, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make it as simple as possible. I see a hand up.
Yes, we'll go with Kathy Fonville of the City of Mesquite. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hey, Becca.
Hey, Kathy.
Great job as always. So I see in that picture that you've got a brochure. Like, does that tell your residents about, what you're doing, to keep the city clean? Does it talk about Adopt a Spot, or is it a different kind of, environmental brochure on the table?
Yes, I had a couple of brochures. We have an environmental collection center here in the city, and so I was trying to give information about the environmental collection center because we had an upcoming hazardous household waste drop-off event, and a lot of people still don't know about those. And then I think I have my HHW brochure and also a recycling brochure, because there's always questions when people are picking up litter about, well, what parts of this is really litter and what parts could actually be recycled. And I did have some people pick those up as well.
That's great. Again, I guess I would have never thought to just set it up, and people are coming no matter if you're there or not. And it's a great way to educate people. So yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. I did have one kid that wanted some service credit for his honor society at school. And so be sure and take business cards with you so that they can have a contact. They have a way to email you, and you can get a service credit certificate to them, because I'm sure other cities do that as well. And the parent was particularly appreciative of that. And so do have some kind of contact information that you can hand out that they can keep up with. That's not too bulky, because remember, like I said, a lot of these were just people passing through. They were not really prepared to do a litter cleanup. They had dogs and a run on their mind instead of litter cleanup. So yeah, contact information as well.
Okay, and I see a question from Barbara. And Barbara, could you let us know your name and your entity, please, before you ask your question?
Okay, this is Barbara Crotty, and I'm with the Greater Fort Worth Sierra Club. Okay, and I might have missed, but are you with the Mansfield Parks and Recreation Department yourself?
I am not. I work for environmental services and water utilities and the public education specialist. I'm also the city liaison for Keep Mansfield Beautiful. But what I've learned is there's power in numbers. People love our parks. Our parks department has lots and lots of fun activities. I'm kind of the not so fun group. I'm the one that's telling you to pick up your trash and recycle all your stuff, whereas parks is all the fun stuff. And so partnering with the fun people makes me better able to get my message out. And
Oh,
so,
great. Well, what I was looking at though was your sign there. That had this nice, sturdy, good-looking sign that says Mansfield Parks and Recreation and Methodist Hospital. And I was wondering how you went about getting that, and just the kind of materials that you came up with.
that's a great question. Since my event was actually the fourth part of a month-long event, that month-long event was through the Parks Department, and Mansfield Methodist actually financially sponsored their month-long event. And so the Parks Department was really the one that rounded up the outside support. The only support I gave financially was providing the grabbers and the gloves and the trash bags. But Mansfield Methodist partners many times with our Parks Department and some of the other departments within the city as well to do bigger events. And this was just a culminating event of a bigger month-long event.
Ah, okay.
So I tagged on with somebody else. I think cities tend to work in silos, which we really should break down those silos because we're all trying to reach the same resident. We all have the same customer. And so the residents see all of us as the city, not individual departments. And we have really tried hard over the past few years to break down some of the silos into tag team on events and think out of the box of how could I possibly meet my needs by helping another department meet their needs. And it's really been successful.
Thank you, Becca. I know you've mentioned that before, the power of partnering within your city. So that's a great thing to say again. And thank you so much for sharing that. And if you're willing to stay till the end, there might be some more questions that come up. But thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
And thanks for doing that and for sharing. That's great information. And I will keep moving through our information. And thank you to Becca Sales. And now I will get into the last toolkit, which is not on the Trash Free Texas website, but it is posted on NCTCOG's Trash Free Waters Project webpage, and I will share a link with that in a minute. As I said, this project, we're trying to remove and reduce trash. And so now we're into the reduction part of the trash and partnering with communities and restaurants to do that. So why engage restaurants? Because communities and restaurants working together can help raise awareness and initiate that behavior change. And the restaurants are seeking and wanting, based on feedback I've heard, support from their communities to do so. They don't want to do it alone. And so this is a win-win for all groups, reduces costs for restaurants, reduces litter overall. And restaurants that I have listened to on other webinars that are already implementing some of these strategies that I will get into have said that it just helps with the overall customer experience, and they get a lot of positive feedback about doing it once the patrons understand the reason for it. So the toolkits, which you can access, and I'll provide you the link to it, have strategies that can be done to reduce single-use plastics, straws, and plasticware. And here are some of the signage and messaging examples from the toolkit. So these would be used by a city, and city can place their logo on them, and they can be distributed to residents to leave at restaurants. Cities can also leave these resources, which would be small cards with the folks who are doing inspections at restaurants as well, just to make them aware of this program. So they would the restaurants are hearing about it from the community, staff, and residents as well, is the idea behind these two items. These are materials that would be displayed in the restaurant, by the restaurant, explaining what they're doing and why. Take a pause on plastic. We're not going to freely offer you the straw with your meal, and this is why, but you can ask for it if you need it. We're not going to freely throw in the plasticware with your takeout order, and this is why. If you already are going straight home, you don't need it, and it saves cost to us. So it just explains the why of what the whole reason for reducing these plastics. And here's one more resource, because I just couldn't throw it in the previous slide, that you could put a restaurant could put their logo on to display in the restaurant about why they are doing what they're doing, why they're participating. So informing the patrons is an important part of the whole behavior change as well. So the Trash Free Waters Project team, NCTCOG, HGAC, and the Meadows Center for Water and the Environment are all working together on this project, and the next step is to pilot the materials in these toolkits. We were really grateful to hear from Becca Sales, who already did a plugging pilot for us already, so kudos to Mansfield for doing that. We're going to provide the resources in the toolkits free of charge to anyone who's interested in piloting. And our current status is that we are getting all of the materials from the toolkits ready in an order form, so you can see what you would like to select if you're going to pilot, that is, and that you can use, and we will purchase them for you with the grant funds. So we're trying to pilot two toolkits right now, the Recreational Litter Cleanup Toolkit and the Trash Free Texas Restaurant Program. But what is expected of piloting participants? That you'll do outreach to residents on the toolkits of some kind and let your residents know that you are participating in what's going on, that you take a pre and post pilot survey if you are either the community or the restaurant, and that you use the resources that are provided and track where they are used. And if you are piloting the Trash Free Texas Restaurant Program, that the community would partner with one or more restaurants who are willing to implement first step strategies from the toolkit. And that begs the question, what are the first step strategies from the toolkit? They are listed in the toolkit, and I'm talking about the strategies to opt in and opt out as they're written in the toolkit. So basically, making plasticware or straws an option to customers instead of automatically providing them. Instead of automatically providing them in a takeout order, ask either through your website or when the patron is in the restaurant, do you need plastic utensils? And for dining in, that could include not automatically providing straws, asking if you need a straw first. Or you could even go a step further than asking and just not provide the straws at all, and then just put a sign up as to why the straws aren't provided. But if you really need one, you can ask for one and it will be provided. So sometimes just not having it readily available will help reduce the use of it as well. So these are the first step strategies that we are envisioning when you pilot the Trash Free Texas Restaurant Program materials. And what do these strategies require? Of the restaurants, they require some staff training, possible changes to a website if someone's doing a takeout order, maybe make a checkbox where someone can say if they need plastic utensils or not, displaying the decals and flyers in the restaurant, and of course, a willingness to try something new. Then restaurants and communities, if they want to expand beyond that, they can on their own. They can investigate biodegradable utensils or even reusables or any other further steps. But for the piloting period, we're asking for these first steps and to let us know how it works. And just to throw in a case study from the Trash Free Texas Restaurant Program Toolkit, which you see if you read the toolkit, and it's from Katy, Texas, which is a community near Houston, and it's at the Fat Eatery. And as the COVID pandemic first began, dining in was greatly reduced, as you know, and takeout orders really increased. And the restaurant was throwing these plastic utensils into the bag because that's what they'd always done. And they realized, well, people are just going home to eat this. Do we really need to do this? And so they started asking, and they were able to greatly reduce the amount of plastic utensils they were purchasing just by asking, because people weren't needing it. They were right, they were going home. And they keep that strategy. They continue to implement it to this day, even as we are a bit in a post-COVID world. So there can be success, just a different mindset. So here is a link on your screen. If you are a community or a restaurant who's interested in being contacted about piloting the Trash Free Texas Recreational Toolkit or the Trash Free Texas Restaurant Program Toolkit, if you leave us your contact information, someone on the project team will reach out to you about piloting materials and what materials you would like to receive, that, and then discuss all those details. So click on the link if you're interested in being contacted, and we will be sure to contact you. And last but certainly not least, I have to mention the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge, which starts today, March 1st, and runs through May 31st. And this is an event that we are hosting NCTCOG for our whole region. All our communities in our region, the 16 county region, are welcome to participate and see which community can pick up the most trash per resident during the designated time frame, which is starting today through May 31st. There's still time to sign up, and you can do that at communitycleanupchallenge.com. And again, the link should work in the presentation. You can just click on it, click on it, I'm sorry. And our NCTCOG staff contact for that is Krista Guzman. She can help you. And you notice you get to win a trophy, which are displayed on the slide with a nifty silver trash can at the top if you are the community that gets to brag that you collected the most trash per resident during the time frame. And there's information on how to log the data, the litter that you're collecting at communitycleanupchallenge.com. And I'm sure Krista will be happy to help you if you have further questions too. And if you notice, there's 2 trophies. So one trophy is for the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge Community Champion, and one is for the North Texas Community Challenge Mayor's Challenge Champion. And so what is the Mayor's Challenge? That is a part of the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge, and you can participate just by having your mayor or your leadership declare a proclamation and challenge other communities. And you can draft your own proclamation, or you can use the template proclamation that has been developed already by NCTCOG. And all you have to do to sign up to participate in the Mayor's Challenge, you have to sign up for the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge. Then you have to take another step to be in the Mayor's Challenge as well, which is just the template proclamation. And then you email the proclamation to stormwater@nctcog.org by April 15th. And again, Krista Guzman is my wonderful colleague. I know she'd be happy to help you with any questions about that. So we hope you sign on and participate and challenge your communities, and good luck to be the winner. First winner, by the way, was the city of Fort Worth, and last year was the city of Grand Prairie. So see if you can challenge those 2 cities, and you can be a winner too. So good luck. And finally, here's a website, our project website, that has everything on it, including the Trash Free Texas Restaurant Program draft toolkits, newsletters, past webinars, all information is there at that website. And here's our project team. I know I said that there were others, Alyssa Knox and Cassidy Campbell, but here are the main contacts you can reach out to for questions, and we'd be happy to help you with questions about how to add sites, or the toolkits, or piloting, or the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge. We'd be happy to help you in any way we can if you just reach out to us. And again, here is that link if you want to sign up to be contacted about piloting the materials. And so now I'm going to stop talking and it's your turn. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to do so. You can put them in the chat or raise your hand. Thank you. I'm going to scan the chat and see if there's any in there. Yes, you can track in the Texas Litter database, you can track anything. The question for Grace Darling was, is there a follow-up system for the large litter? Oh, that they can't retrieve. I guess you would have to contact your local municipality. Okay, thank you for that answer. And I see Kathy Fonville, City Mesquite, you have a question, go ahead.
Yeah, Elena, I know I've asked you this before, but I assume that NCTCOG is going to be able to maintain this website from now on, correct? Because it's part of the grant. Or do we not know the answer to that question?
The Trash Free Texas website?
Yeah, like it's not going to go away, right?
It's not going to go away. No, that is likely not to happen. Yep. And Texas State they maintained it before. There was kind of an intermittent period when it was created, and then the grant that created it ended, and then we came in a little later with our grant, and it was still, live and functioning when we came in. So Texas State is maintaining it.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Okay. The question is, do we have data on the paths that materials take before they become waste in our environment? I'm sure we do, but I'm going to leave that for participants and others to answer because I'm sure they might have better answer than me. Does anyone have an answer to that question in the chat? Do we have data on the paths that materials take before they become waste in our environment?
This is Becca Sales with the City of Mansfield. I know that we have done some informal litter surveys around town, but we're still depending on anecdotal evidence of where the source is. If it appears to be from dumpsters because it's close to it, then we kind of make that assumption. But it's really difficult, I think, to figure out the actual source of most litter.
Thank you, Becca. I was thinking of I'm going to put in the chat the Texas Market Development Plan has great information about recycling and things, and that was a report recently done for TCQ by Burns and McDonnell.
Elena, we have a question in the chat from Dale. He asked, do restaurants have to meet any requirements themselves, such as recycling, composting, or etc.?
Thank you, Krista. I did not see that. No, that is not the plan for this initial first step piloting. We're going to do baby steps here. But that could definitely be a part of a community's program if the pilot goes well and they want to continue and go down that path. We will not have any requirements or any reason to stop that motion. But right now we're just focused on those first baby steps. And we just really need a willingness to do it, from restaurants, and the willingness to train staff and potentially modify the website a bit. And that's it at this point.
Elena, this is Becca Sales with Mansfield again. I'm going back to Tyrone Robinson's question. There is a little bit of data collection along those lines if you're using the Texas Litter database, because when you're entering data, there are questions about, was there a recycle can available on that side, or was there a trash receptacle available on that side? And then they also have different types of litter that you can check. Was it plastic litter? Was it paper? Was it fast food litter? Was it aluminum cans? That kind of thing. And so again, it's not exactly what he's asking, but it at least is helping us try to figure out a little bit more of a pattern.
Thank you for that, Becca. I did not know that. That's good to know. Okay, I see a question. Have there been efforts to try to connect restaurants with suppliers of compostable, biodegradable, single-use items? Well, if you count the information we included in the toolkit and the restaurant reads our toolkit, then yes. But I know that the DFW airport is a great source because they have been moving away from straws and not letting their vendors use straws. So they are really leaders in that regard. But does anyone else on our team have any, or maybe attendees have a response?
I think, you know, to Lena's point, we are trying to connect our restaurants with information if they do want to make the switch from plastic to something that is more environmentally friendly, that's compostable or biodegradable. However, the best, I think the best first step is to, you know, eliminate certain, you know, certain items, you know, like straws, if they're not necessary, instead of going for a biodegradable version, because there's not always the resources in a community to compost certain types of materials, even though they're labeled as compostable or biodegradable. They do need to be treated at certain types of facilities, and not every community may have one of those available to them. So eliminating that unnecessary plastic or unnecessary item is kind of the first and best step to take.
Okay, I see a hand up from Dale Lynch. Could you please unmute and introduce yourself and ask your question?
Hey everybody, I'm Dale Lynch. I work for the Stormwater Department here in Dallas. I did have a question about like the recycling with the in relationship to the restaurants. It comes about because I was at a restaurant that bordered the Trinity River, and one of the servers, as he was clearing tables, would take all his drink cups and dump them over the edge into the basin. And when I looked over the edge, there were a whole bunch of plastic straws. And so I ended up having a conversation with the manager about it because I was like, well, clearly that's going to get washed down. And just being such a close relationship and proximity to such a large basin, I just wondering if there's any like more stringent laws for those locations that exist closer to those bodies of water.
Wow, that is very sad to hear. I am not aware of any more stringent laws for those who are right next to waterways, but I am not the end all be all, so I open it up to any other participants who may know the answer.
This is Julie Wintrell with the City of Cleburne. And under state rules, if they are actually on the bed and banks, that would be a direct discharge to waters of the state. And so it is enforceable under state water code, not just city ordinances. And those are more stringent and have heftier fines associated with them.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any questions on the toolkits or piloting? Do you have any concerns about piloting that you'd like to ask about?
This is Julie Winchell again. I am in conversation with a group of restaurants that are all in our historic business district. And we were thinking about trying to pilot the group itself rather than one small restaurant. Would customization of the documents, would that, be okay, where we would just indicate, the restaurants of historic downtown, or, is that okay to have multiple different smaller mom and pop venues reaching out and having the materials?
We can discuss that with you. We are anticipating some kind of customization, but we also have maybe printing requirements and quantities we need to make, but we are open to putting city logos on the materials and talking to you about that. So we'll talk about that and what we can do.
Okay, thanks.
And that's great news. I hope that we're able to get the materials for you and you can implement.
Well, I was pleasantly surprised when I was looking at the Historic Downtown Business website that we actually have like 5 new restaurants or, food venues that are in that downtown historic district. And our new historic district chair is actually the owner of Mug on the Square, a little coffee shop with eatery across from the courthouse. So I'm hopeful that we might get all of these restaurants involved.
That's great. Okay, I see a question in the chat. Is there an effort at the state level to engage chain restaurant corporate offices? Not that I know of at this time, but if this project leads there, if this grows into something beyond that, it would have to be Texas-based restaurants, I would think. But we're just trying to start with the baby steps right now, and with our stakeholders in Dallas-Fort Worth and the Houston-Galveston regions. I like how you're thinking big.
I do want to point out that during the last series, we had the Texas Restaurant Association folks in on it. So they're supportive of the documentation and everything. So it may be that we can pursue the larger chain restaurants with the Texas Restaurant Association as a partner.
Awesome. And the Texas Restaurant Association is aware of this project, what we're trying to do. We've talked to them in the past and invited them to this webinar actually too. Okay, we have time for one more question. Laura P, could you please unmute and introduce yourself, ask your question.
This is Laura Prater with the City of Mansfield. I'm the Marketing Communications Manager. I was just kind of wondering if anyone here on the call, I mean, I'm all for this pilot program. I want this so bad. Are any city offices currently trying to educate staff about single-use plastic? Because I feel like if you're walking the walk, you got to talk the talk, or talk the talk, walk the walk type of things. So I don't know if there's anybody out there who has a successful program where you're encouraging people to bring their own containers and silverware and things like that.
Is there anyone starting that type of effort in their community?
The only reason I ask is because if we, put our logo on all this, print material and get the restaurant on board, and the city's not even being a steward of the program, I'm just trying to say,
Yeah.
Maybe we kind of start there first. I don't know. Just putting it out there.
In Cleburne, we're having our HR department actually has a lot of things for the as part of our health initiatives. And so they've included providing reusable plastic containers with plastic straw, the reusable sturdy straws and lids and everything. And so while we're not doing it for as part of this restaurant program, we're already doing it as part of our human resources health initiatives, you know, and they're pressing that, which I think is totally great because they have funding to do that, and they provide it as part of our, you know, health partnerships, and you know, they give us exercise programs and monthly things, but they've included in those reusable plastic straw, the heavy duty plastic straws in cups that have the reusable lids and everything. So yeah, they're putting it out to all of our city employees that way. So it won't be a different initiative if we get the restaurants in town on board. It'll kind of partner in with what our human resources is already doing. So you might check and see. Human resources sometimes has money that the rest of us don't.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe start with HR to get the whole, you know, the whole organization on board instead of just like one building.
Yeah, they did ours like
multiple
last year. They gave them out to all the city employees with a gym bag and stuff as part of our healthy employee initiative.
Okay.
And Elena, if I may,
Yeah.
Plastic Free July is a global campaign that focuses on challenging yourself to go plastic free for the whole month. And they have engaged, you know, communities and businesses, schools, as well as local governments. And so they have little toolkits or case studies on their website. I just linked it. That may be a good source of inspiration on how, like, a government level, ways that you can encourage, you know, less plastic waste in your local government. So I just dropped that link in the chat.
Thank you, Krista. That's great information. And I also see that Jim Gerber wrote that Keep Flower Mound Beautiful provided reusable utensil kits to the folks that participate in their big fall checkup event. So that's great too. And so we are out of time, but thank you so much for participating today. I'm leaving it on the slide with our names. You can reach out to us at any time with questions, and we'd love to hear from you and help you in any way we can. And thank you for attending. This webinar is now over.